Liz is an aspiring author and speaker, and I can definitely see that in her. She's got a passion for sharing the truth and empowering people to live a life of significance through choosing the truth as their life coach, counselor, and guide. She's on a mission to convince you your choices matter. Liz will be presenting a speech from the Storytelling Advanced Manual, project number 5, Bringing History to Life. The title of her speech is The Overcomers Club. Please help me welcome Liz. Thank you.
Whether you realize it or not, there exists a club in which every person who has ever truly overcome anything in their lives is given honorary membership. I call it the Overcomers Club. It is a club, despite its unlimited power and prestige, that absolutely anyone can join by simply choosing to believe. A seat in the Overcomers Club, you can claim real victory. It will equip you, that seat will equip you with the power to change your life. The power to overcome every enemy that comes against you. The power to find significance, and the power to finally begin living a life that matters. But this is a club for true overcomers. It is a club, as God Himself instructs us in His Word, that is reserved only for those who choose to believe. Shula Cohen's story is a story of incredible courage and incredible faith. Hers is a story of a woman who has claimed her seat in the Overcomers Club. But this story is not dedicated to Shula. This story is dedicated to you, both current and future members of the Overcomers Club. Shula Cohen was one of Israel's most famous spies. She was a young Jewish woman who lived with her husband, who was a wealthy Lebanese merchant in Beirut, Lebanon, in the 1940s. Shula met the Prime Minister of Lebanon one year when she was organizing a large year-end party for a Jewish school, when she went to his office to request a permit for the party. The Prime Minister instantly took a liking to Shula. He took Shula under his wing, and he eventually considered her the 4th daughter. In 1947, on the eve of the War of Israel's independence, Shula attended a large Christmas party the Prime Minister had put on for all the who's who of Israel, of Lebanon and Syria. At that party, Shula overheard some of the top Lebanese and Syrian generals about attacking Israel, which at the time was still Palestine. She heard every detail, including how and when the attack would take place. Shula couldn't sleep that night. Lying there awake, she remembered learning in school how to make invisible ink. The next morning, Shula wrote a letter in English as if to her cousin, and in between the lines of that letter in invisible ink, she explained the details of what she had overheard. Amazingly, she found a way to get the letter across the border in an envelope addressed only to Jerusalem. Within a matter of days, a message was personally delivered back to Shula, and there began a 12-year period of spying for Israel, passing documents, and smuggling Jews out of Lebanon. As the years passed, over and over again, Shula chose to risk her life and the life of her growing family for a greater cause, for a cause she believed she'd been called to by God. Shortly after giving birth to her 6th child, Shula was accused of spying for Israel and thrown into prison. there began a 7-year period that was violent, horrific. It was a nightmare. Shula was kept in solitary confinement for 2.5 years, where they interrogated her every couple of days, trying to break her down. But as she said, they couldn't. She was tortured, humiliated, and violated beyond imagination. Toenails, fingernails were pulled out one by one, as were each of her teeth. And as Shula says in her own words, other things I cannot dare to speak of, they have done to me. Shula says, after a while, I was like a mental patient coming to the trial. In the middle of the courtroom, Shula's arms and legs were bound. They were tied, and she was hung upside down in the courtroom, naked, whipped mercilessly in front of a room of chanting, angry men. Still, Shula did not confess. Shula was found guilty of high treason and sentenced to death by hanging, even though there was no evidence, no confession. Then, at the end of the Six-Day War in 1967, Lebanon traded Shula with one of Israel's pilots in a prisoner exchange with Israel. Shula was finally set free. After a month in the hospital and 2 operations, Shula was left with the physical and emotional scars of those dark, difficult years, but also with the belief in her heart that she had done something that mattered, that she had been used for a greater purpose. Shula says, I did it for Israel, for God. If He is pleased with me, that is enough. Because one woman chose to have courage, to believe and to trust God, hundreds if not thousands of lives were saved. By trusting and believing in God, Shula claimed her seat in the Overcomers Hall. By trusting and believing God, you can claim yours. Now, you may never be called to fight for a nation like Shula Cohen was, or to endure the tortures of a prison, Lebanese prison, but you will be called to do something. When you are, you'll have a choice to make. In fact, you make thousands of choices each and every day, no matter how big or how small they might seem. By believing and trusting God, you can overcome every enemy that comes against you, find significance, and finally begin living a life that matters. Scripture says, by believing that Jesus is the Son of God, you can overcome the world. By believing and trusting God, just like Shula Cohen, you too can claim a seat in the Overcomers Club. By believing in Jesus, you can claim it for eternity. This is a portrait of Shula Cohen in the 1940s. She's still alive, living today in Jerusalem. Mr. Toastmaster?